Yeah, why don't you fill me in on the outfit you were in?
We was attached to the 15th Air Force, and our group was the 463rd Bomb Group, heavies.
It was heavies?
Yeah, and my squadron is a 772 squadron.
Okay. What base was that out of?
Is a Foggia.
How do you spell that?
By gum, I don't know.
We'll call it F-O-G-E for Foge.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was the date that you took off that day? Do you remember the date?
Yeah, it was May the 10th, about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, what year?
1944.
About 10 in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what was the mission at the time?
Oh no, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning when we took off.
Oh, 6 a.m. when you took off.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. And what was your mission that day?
We bombed in Wiener-Neustadt, Austria. The Germans had started building a new jet engine factory.
And you were supposed to bomb that?
Yeah.
Did you have any escorts with you, fighter escorts?
I never seen no escort
No
that day.
escorts. Okay. How many, well, you flew, what plane did you fly in?
B17 bomber, B17G.
Okay. And what was, as a crew member, what was your position? What was your
Flight engineer.
Flight engineer. How many other B-17s or other bombers were involved that day in that mission?
We had, my group had 32 bombers and we all went.
Okay. Were they all B-17s?
Yeah, all 17s.
Gotcha. What was the name of your B-17?
Little Lambsy Divy.
Was there a number nomenclature on that?
Yeah, it had a number, but I had no idea what it is now.
Okay. Thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
As you went out there, do you recall the what happened when you got shot down? How did you get hit? Was it a?
We come in on the target from the south, and we hit a headwind, real heavy headwind, and knocked our airspeed down to 90 mile an hour. And they got 8 B-17s out of 32 that day.
Did they shoot you down with anti-aircraft?
Anti-aircraft.
Anti-aircraft. I can see that you would be a good target at that speed.
Yeah, we was a good. Yeah, that's how come they got we lost a big toll on. If we'd come in from the north with that air behind us,
you'd have been fine.
Yeah, we'd have been up 250 mile an hour or so.
Wow.
You know.
Did you see any German fighters that were scrambled or anything? Were they
that day?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see any German fighters that day.
Okay. Did the entire crew make it out that day? Okay.
And yeah, there was 5 of us got captured, and 4 of them got back.
4 were able to evade capture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who was your commander on the flight that day? Do you remember his name?
Colonel Kurtz.
He was the commander of the entire flight operation?
Yeah.
Who was the pilot?
Smithwick.
Smithwick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good. Now we've got your story about after you were shot down and all, and that's pretty extensive, and I appreciate it. We don't have to go through any of that again. This was the information I wanted to capture that would help ground this into history. It's going to be an important part.
The first mission I went on was up at northern Italy. We bombed a railroad airfield. Germans had fighters on it.
And this was in northern Italy. They had fighters.
Yeah, Can't think of the name of the town right off. But Hermann Göring, Focke-Wulf's 180s, met us. And they was a elite crew. Or they had to have 4 heavy bombers a month to stay in that outfit. And they was yellow noses, so you knew what outfit they was. And when they come in, they meant business.
And they called them yellow noses?
They had a yellow nose.
Okay.
Cowling. And
that's how you identified that?
Yeah, they identified them. Yeah, and they was good. And we had P-47s for escort. And they was no match for them.
For the ability of them, their flying ability,
Yeah.
as well as probably
They was good, but
the airplanes were good too.
yeah,
The F-180s, right?
yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
And I think they shot down about, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 that day. And the reason that we didn't get shot down, they shot our oxygen out. And we had to go down to the deck.
Yeah. You had to go below 10,000 feet if you're off oxygen.
What?
What was the
10,000 feet.
10,000 feet.
You could get by at 15, but we had to, 10,000 was our limit.
When you're flying in the B-17, just generally, is it cold? Is it warm?
It was cold.
It's cold up there, yeah.
One time in Africa, before we started combat, we flew a practice bombing mission. And I had a heater suit. And I never run up past 4, and I run up to 10. And that day, I'd turn it up, and I got hit 10. That was it.
That was it.
I called the navigator up, and I said, how cold is it outside? He says, 60 below, at 10,000 feet.
What time of year was that?
Right?
What time of year was that? What was it?
That was in February.
February.
Yeah, February or around, right around the 1st of March, but I think it was in February, yeah.
So were there any heaters at all in the B-17s? It was just
We
whatever.
had, but they wasn't worth a
They
shit.
weren't. Okay, I understand.
They just had one little heater. And, see, there was no insulation on them. Just bare skin. Yeah, no, they was
Darn
cold.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but it was probably cold every time you took off when you got to those altitudes.
Time you got to altitude, it was cold, you know.
It's incredible. I had heard that before. I wasn't sure.
What?
I had heard that before.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure. That's why I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah.
Just the whole experience is important.
Yeah,
To kind of capture that. And anything else you want to share?
No, I guess
No,
not.
that's about. Yeah, that's it. We got your whole other story set
Yeah.
up and all. We thought that was great, and I wanted to capture a few more of these elements here to kind of put the whole thing together, and hopefully we'll capture this for history.
Yeah.
That's important.
Well, we had to land one time down in the Sahara Desert. We didn't have no oxygen on. We had to land at an emergency airfield. We was headed for Tunis. And we was sitting there, I think we was there 2 days. Well, about half a mile or a mile away was the Arab village. So we walked down there that one afternoon, and there was a garrison of French soldiers in there, legionnaires, what they was. And there was every nationality in that outfit. And I don't know how them people made a living, but there was a 4-inch pipe run out of that side of the hill, run full of water. I see no gardens, and all there was just shacks. Except there was one beautiful 2-story house, off by itself, painted pink. Well, I asked this one legionnaire, he could speak good English. He could have been American, but he wouldn't say. what that building was. He says, that's her whorehouse. He said, I don't know how many women they had, but every 3 months they changed women there.
Hmm.
They'd fly into London, or they had some place to go, and pick those girls up, bring them back, and
Pay them out to pay.
I suppose they're the ones that made the money, because hell, they wasn't paid very much money.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's something else. Well, that's great. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to be capturing all this, and we're going to try to get this all set up and put it up there, you know, for everybody to
See.
at least share that kind of story.
Yeah.
'Cause it's important. It really is. All right. Go ahead. Anything else? What else?
But I'll tell you, people don't understand Yugoslavia at this time. See, Tito had the mountains, and he was after all the airmen he could get that was shot down, because he got $10,000 worth of supplies for every American he got back. So he was after him. And then there was the people that captured me, I can't think of their name, they was loyal to their government, which had surrendered to the Germans. And then there was another outfit, but I don't know her for sure where he operated at. But then after World War II, they all fought him up. Tito, he come out on top, you know. He had the backing of all the Allies.
So when you got shot down, do you recall where you were at when you were shot down?
I was 30 miles southeast of Zagreb, Yugoslavia. We got number 2 engine shot out over the target. Number 3 and number 1 engine, we had to feather the prop on both of those. That left us number 3 and 4. We had to give it full right rudder to stay. And there's pilot and co-pilot and myself. We took turns holding that, and now, boy, all you could do was push on that right rudder. Well, then number 3 engine wasn't working. It must have got hit something. Well, it finally it was only about 4th power. Now, number 4 engine was on full power. That was the only thing that held it, but we couldn't hold it up, altitude. And we just kept it going down and going down. Alps was up here and we was down here. So we had to leave it. Well, anyhow, several years after this, I talked to the navigator in PW in Frankfurt, Germany. And he told us where we was at, right where we was at. Well, he stated he was all by himself. And he went to this one farmhouse and asked for help. Oh, they was real friendly towards him. That was the problem down in there. You didn't know who was neighbor and neighbor fighting each other. Oh, they just tickled to death to see him. So they put him up for the night and give him a nice bed to sleep in. And he says about 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody shook him. He woke up and his German lieutenant. They turned him in. And he was down there at that jail where they took him. That guy was collecting reward on him. He says to you, after the war, I'm going to be back. I'm going to burn your damn house down. So I asked him, after the war, I called him a couple of times. And I said, you ever go down and back and burn that house down? No, he said. But his boy called me several years ago, and he said to me, I'm going to go back where that plane went down at. I want to see that. And of course, when I heard it explode when it hit the ground. So he said, I'm going back. I don't have no photographer in Dallas, Texas. I'm going back to Yugoslavia, and I'm going to get me a car and a driver that speaks English. And they went to 2 down bomb sites, or where the planes went down, but they wasn't the one. And they found the one that we got. He said it's just a hole in the ground. Well, he said, I was talking, they said the time we got there, being I was an American, there's villagers coming to see him, you know. And this one guy told him, he said, you know, that plane, I got the worst licking of my life over that plane. Well, he said, how's that? Well, he said, I was just a young kid, and I was holding on to my dad's leg, and he said, here the Germans come, looking for the crew. And the crew was Ralph Black, but he didn't, and he had went down by himself. And he was hidden in the bushes there. And of course the village people said, we don't know, nothing. We haven't seen anybody strange around here. And he said, I went over and I tugged on that old German lieutenant's leg, and I told him, that guy's over there in the bushes. And he said, when they left, I got it. Yeah. But now, they finally got us taken to Zagreb, Yugoslavia, where they turned us over. They turned us over to, in an office. And there was a German master sergeant and some more in this office. Of course, we couldn't talk to them. And they was waiting to take us to jail, and this old German master sergeant got up and he left. Here we come back. He gave all his helpers a bottle of beer, and he gave us a bottle of beer. And I says, good, good, good. He just went and got me another one. Oh, shit.
It's the worst funny. You
Yeah,
ever know.
worst funny.
It really is. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we was way down Yugoslavia, and then they took us to that interrogation center way up Frankfurt, Germany. And that was a little rough up there. They throwed you in solitary confinement. But you know, I never bought shell gas for a long time, because that was the only filling station I saw in Germany was shell gas.
Shell gas.
And so I never bought shell gas for a long, long time. Yeah.
Do you recall the Stalag number you were in?
That what?
The
Stalag Luft 3.
Luft 3?
Yeah, Luft 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Now there was a new camp, and there was only 300 in that camp to start with. And then they moved us to another lager. And there was 10 barracks in there. Had 10 rooms in them. And they had 25 men to a room. Yeah, it was pretty crowded, but you got along all right. You had to get along. Yeah. And the motto was, you never stole from your buddies. But if you got a hold of a German, you could steal all you wanted to from him.
I recall you told me a story once about a pretty nasty guard and how the Brits could somehow deflect his attention while somebody slipped something in his pocket.
Yeah, that was it.
Tell us that story.
Yeah. Well, he was mean, and we had to get rid of him somehow. So they took a pack of cigarettes, and while one of them had him distracted, put it in his pocket. And it was about roll call time, and the commander came. So them guys called the commander, says, That guy traded us a loaf of bread for a pack of cigarettes, and we haven't got the bread. He was out of there right then. Yeah, they done.
You had to do that. You had to do that.
Boy, there was some crafty guys. Yeah. But you know, I don't know who had it, but see, there was 3 loggers of us, and number 1 logger was the English logger with the Australians. And there was one Englishman made a radio. I don't know where he got the parts or anything like that. And hardly, I don't think anybody, maybe 1 or 2 people knew who had that radio. But as they could hear BBC, you know, and got the radio news. Now we could get German newspapers, but they was about 2 weeks behind on the fronts. They didn't want people to know where the fronts really was, I guess. But we had an old boy he was in my room, from Minneapolis. He was German, spoke good German. And he got acquainted with one of the guards. And he would give that guard cigarettes. And that guard would give him eggs or something. But that old boy got a lot of information out of that guard. He was an expert at information. And the morning the invasion was on, that night we could hear fighter planes going over off of the Russian front. And that guard told him, "You boys behave yourselves today. Keep quiet." He says, "These guards are all going to be jittery today." So we kept a real low profile that day. Yeah. That's how we found out the invasion was on.
Okay.
We thought something was on that night because we could hear fighter planes going over, headed west. Yeah.
Now you had mentioned that the Canadians liberated you.
Yeah.
Was there an option for the Russians when they were coming in? Who actually arrived first?
Well, we was so warned that afternoon, and that German captain lined us up, and he said, "I'll give you your choice. The Russians are about 10 miles this way, and the Canadians, English and Canadians, are over here about 10 miles. Now who you want to liberate you? If you want the Russians, I'll take you to the Russian lines, but I won't give my men up to the Russians." We said, "We don't want nothing to do with the Russians either," so we went to the Russians. And they made contact with the Canadian Army that night. Next morning, I was I'd stole a bunch of potatoes and I was boiling them. And that old Jeep with that colonel come in and said, "You boys get to this so-and-so town." Yeah. So I don't know if that water's still boiling in that pot or not.
You never got a chance to eat those potatoes.
I just took it right off.
I think I'd skip a meal for that too myself. I'd skip a meal for that too.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. All right. Well, thanks very, very much.
That's
I'm going to go ahead
okay.
and cut this off now.
Yeah.